Good afternoon. My name is Mike Belanger, and it's indeed an honor to introduce our speaker today, Todd Stanberry, who I'm proud to call a friend and a neighbor. Todd and I live 2 houses down from each other, and Metro Aviation is just a really neat company. I've been very privileged to know Kenny for several years and know Todd through long family friendships, and I'm really proud to have a company like Metro in Shreveport, hiring Shreveport folks and representing our city not only nationally but all over the globe as they continue to do great work. A quick story about Todd. Todd's got a kindergartner named Mathis, and Mathis Stanberry is nicknamed the Informer on our street. We have 13 houses on our street, and if you show up and Mathis doesn't know you, we're going to find out about it real quick. My brother-in-law from Baton Rouge was staying in our house one weekend this past summer, and he was out walking, and he walks 2 houses down, and he passes by Mathis, says hello to Mathis, and Mathis looks at him and says, "I don't know you, and you don't live here, and I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." And I said, "Good job, Mathis. We've been trying to get him to leave since Friday." So we really like Mathis and his duties he performs in our neighborhood. I'm really most honored to tell you that not only is Todd a great businessman, but he's an excellent friend and neighbor, and even greater than that, Todd is a great family man. He's a great dad, a great husband, and he's definitely a wonderful Christian and participates heavily in his church in Old Methodist. So without further ado, Todd Stanberry.
Wow. I don't know how to follow between the song and that introduction, and I really hope I don't let y'all down. It's certainly an honor and a privilege to be here today. I am a member of the Downtown Shreveport Lions Club, so please don't hold that against me. But I'm already getting the hard sell. So I know we're limited on time, and I have a lot to share with you, so I'll get right to it. And it looks like I'm being pretty heavily supervised today. So Dan, forgive me if I misspeak. It's a good-looking guy right here. Many of you may know him. You might not recognize him in this picture, but that's Mike Stanberry, my father, circa 1970-something. Not too long after he graduated from LSU. And he was entering into this room, going to a party, so celebrating a milestone for his first big venture, which was Louisiana hydromulchers. For those of you who don't know what hydromulching is, it's also known as hydro seeding. It's the engineers in the room will probably know it's erosion control. And this was a venture that him and his business partner went into and were very successful at. They were awarded contracts from the Louisiana DOT, from the Army Corps of Engineers, and it was doing really well. The only problem was they had to be in about 4 different places at once, and it wasn't very efficient to do that in a vehicle. They were both pilots, and they said, "You know what? We need to get a helicopter." So my father bought his first helicopter, an Instrom, what was it, a F-28 model, and this is a picture of it right here, and it was a valuable asset. It worked for him, and he decided, well, let's get into the helicopter business. So he bought another one shortly after that, and this is where they operated out of. That was the headquarters for Louisiana Hydromulchers and the helicopter company that he started. In 1982, it was incorporated, and they named it Metro Aviation after the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. Big imagination. Right, Dan? I think it's a great name. But and it was shortly after that he was on a hunting trip with an executive at the American Bank and Trust in Baton Rouge, a local bank down there, and they were sharing war stories, and the banker told him, he said, "You know, I'm just having a real hard time getting money from our correspondent banks to our main branch and then on to the Federal Reserve in New Orleans." At the time, interest rates were at an all-time high, and they were trying to capitalize on that. And they were using, of course, the armored vehicles to do that. And my father had just come back from his first helicopter convention out west and had an idea that he wanted to share with me. But before I tell you about that, who knows what a Hughes 500D helicopter looks like? Anyone in the room ever seen a Hughes 500? Okay. Who likes 80s television shows? Maybe you've seen this one. Anyone remember Magnum PI? Okay, so that's the show that made the Hughes 500 really popular in a short amount of time. And so what Dad wanted to share with this banker friend of his was that out in this helicopter convention he had been at, he learned that there was another bank that was doing correspondent banking via helicopter. And the premise was, they'd run the money up a flagpole, the helicopter would swoop in and grab it with a grapple hook. And the banker really liked the idea and said, this is great, let's do it. So the verbal contract that ensued allowed Metro to purchase 3 new Hughes 500D models. So now he has an Instrum, he had bought a Hughes 300 and 3 Hughes 500s. Well, the unfortunate truth is, before the first Hughes 500 could go into service for the bank merged with another larger bank out of Tennessee, and they weren't real keen on correspondent banking via helicopter. So, pardon the pun, but it never really got off the ground. As a result, and this was around the time my father had hired Milton Geltz, our managing director. Milton's been with us for the long haul, and Milton loves telling this story. If he was here today, he'd share it with you. He told my father when he hired him, he said, I've only got 2 conditions. He said, you gotta let me know if my paycheck's gonna bounce. And you gotta let me know if the key's not gonna work in the door. He said, the last place I came from, they changed the locks, and I got a new bride and baby on the way, and I just really can't afford to do that. And he said that Mike told him every day as he came in the office, today could be the day, Bill. He said he hadn't let him off the hook since. So they went on, and so my father was stuck with 5 aircraft, a mess of parts, and really no job to put them at. So he told Milton, you need to pack up a U-Haul trailer with everything Metro owns, well, everything the bank owned, and head up to Shrevary. That seems to be the land of opportunity. And so my dad and the 1 pilot we had on staff flew the aircraft up there. And that, by the way, that U-Haul was about half empty. And they got to work trying to find a job for these aircraft. Here's a shot of Metro's new home for the last 25 years or so. We moved out of that and in our current facility in 2007. But that was at the downtown airport, Shreveport. And so then he set about, as soon as he hit the ground, he needed to find a job for those aircraft. He went straight to Channel 12. Which at the time, Channel 12 was what Channel 3 is today. It was the leading news gathering source for everyone in Shreveport, and it's right across the street from Shumpert Medical Center. And he said, that gives me an idea. And being the eternal entrepreneur that he was and is, he made this pitch to Channel 12 and to Shumpert and said, you guys need to do this. We're going to get you a news gathering helicopter, but it'll double as an EMS helicopter. Incidentally, this ended up being his introduction into the EMS industry, unknowingly at the time. And what he pitched to him was one of these Hughes 500s, and the cameraman would sit up front, they'd go out on a news gathering mission, and if they happened to get a medevac call in flight, they would redirect and divert to wherever the scene was. They'd land, and they had a tray core, it's called a tray core litter, and it would sit on the side of the aircraft. Well, when you put that litter in there and unfold it, there was only room for 2 people instead of 3, so the cameraman had to stay behind. But they put the patient in, bring him back to the hospital, but before they left the scene, they'd get the can of film from the cameraman. And this was just genius, right? Because as soon as they dropped the patient off, they could run the can of film across the street and they had their Live at 5 breaking news coverage. And that worked great. They both loved it. For about 6 months, and then the hospital decided they wanted their own aircraft, and that's when things got very interesting. Dad said, well, I keep hearing things about these twin turbine powered helicopters, and man, wouldn't I just be awesome if I had a twin turbine powered helicopter. So This is Metro Aviation circa 1985, and our entire fleet and our entire staff. And you can see in the back, the furthest helicopter back is a BO-105, and that's what the hospital ended up acquiring, and Metro got into the completion business as a result of that. I'm going to explain that to you in just a minute. And I'm sorry if I talk too fast, but like I said, I've got a lot that I want to share with y'all. I want to be respectful of your time. So this is Metro today, at least the part that's in Shreveport. About 125 employees. Here in Shreveport, we've got another 500 or so throughout the United States. You include all of our pilots and mechanics. And I'm very proud of my father. He's put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this company, and has made it what it is today. I want to give you just a few fast facts. So we're the largest air medical completion center in the world. And I'll explain completions to you in a minute. We're the second largest traditional air medical operator in the U.S. We're one of the only ones, and I'm kidding you, correct me if I'm wrong, might be the only one left that's still privately owned. All of our competitors are either publicly traded or equity-owned, venture capitalist-owned, and they're much larger than we are. But Dad held true to his guns, and we remain private. We have over 100 aircraft, coast to coast, over 700 employees. We're certified by the FAA as a Part 135, which means it's just the certificate that we have to have to carry aircraft for hire. And then the Part 145 is the other certificate we have to have. It gives us our repair station rating, so we can do all the things that we do here in Shreveport to complete aircraft and repair them. We send all of our pilots to annual simulator training. I'm going to explain that too. We were the first operator to equip our entire fleet of helicopters with night vision goggles. I know all y'all probably seen those in the movies. They turn everything green. Well, it enables our pilots to see at night. It basically turns on the sun at night, and we were the first to do that. And then I'll explain our partnership with Flight Safety International in a bit. Okay, so two major business segments for Metro Aviation. I've mentioned the word completions a million times now. When you buy a new aircraft, it's not like going down to the Ford dealership or the Chevy dealership. It's not complete. It's a shell. There's no paint, there's no radios, there's no upholstery. It comes just as a raw, they call it a green aircraft. And so when we take delivery for our customers, that's what we do here at Shreveport. We complete the aircraft, and that's where the word completions comes from. So that's one of our business segments. The other one is operations, and that's where we contract with hospitals, and we operate and maintain their aircraft for them, and we do that all over the country. The reason we're successful in the operations is because of the experience we have in the completions, and not a lot of folks understand this, but because we're outfitting these aircraft with interiors, with pumps, with electrical outlets, and we know exactly where our customers want them, we can gain a better appreciation and understanding for what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and that translates into what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And it gives us a much higher knowledge and gives us a much better chance for success in that. And if you ask Milton, he'll tell you weight is a 4-letter word. We all talk about that. We pride ourselves on always delivering our products on time and within budget. It's something we hold very near and dear and to our hearts. Okay, this is kind of a landscape of where the Metro family is on the operations side. You can see we have sort of little pockets of business in the Northwest, in the Northeast, and then down in the South. So a total of 32 programs, about 80-something bases of operation, just because it's one program, they may have 5 or 6 bases of operation around their service area. So this is where we kind of fall on the map. Okay, the other big thing I want to talk to you about is safety. My father's had a mantra as long as Metro's been around. For safety to exist, it must be a way of life. It must be something that's practiced from the guy who's sweeping the floor to the guy who's operating the aircraft. And it's something that we're very passionate about. So much so that Jerry, our CFO, is constantly at us about the amount of money that we spend and the amount of time and effort that we put towards safety. You've all probably heard at some time or another in the media who loves to interest everyone with shock and awe, all the heightened interest in the incidents and accidents that have happened over the recent years in the helicopter EMS industry. Before all of that, Metro was getting involved in the safety arena to a point that just is unsurpassed by anyone else. And we recognized there were basically 4 areas of focus that we needed to concentrate our efforts on. And they were vision, training, oversight, and then a system to tie it all together. And so that's what I wanted to share with y'all. And it's some pretty interesting stuff. And I'm starting to bore you. I can tell, it's okay. I'll just be quick with this stuff, but I do want to impart this to you because I want you to understand what it is we're doing down the road right here in Shreveport. So I mentioned NVGs to you. This is the vision piece. If our pilots can't see, that's not good. And at night when they're flying, you know, these operations that we service are, for the most part, 24-hour operations. Just because the sun goes down doesn't mean people aren't going to get hurt or get sick. So, and when you're flying, you know, it's different from American or Delta. They're flying from a fixed point to a fixed point in space, and there's someone watching them every step of the way. We're flying from a fixed point to who knows where, in the middle of a rural area, countryside, could be power lines, could be trees. So the night vision goggles enable our pilots to fly safely into areas that are uncontrolled. But it doesn't come cheaply. It's about an $80,000 investment per aircraft, and I told you we're operating over 100 of them, so you can do the math. HTAWs, you've probably all actually seen this or seen it on a movie. It's the little box that has a moving map that shows you what obstacles are in your way, and a lot of the airliners will actually tell them, pull up if you're getting too low. Well, we have that for helicopters, and we've augmented, we're probably, what, Kenny, 75% of the way outfitting all of our aircraft. We appreciate what HTAWs does, but again, you're only as good as the information that's in that box, so that's why we started with NVGs. The training piece. Okay, I mentioned the flight simulator to you. You can see in this video, and the picture to the right, this is a commitment that Metro made about, well, we started on the 135 6 years ago, but even before that, we were sending our pilots to simulator training. Now, the difference in what other folks do and what we do is that we want to create a situation and scenarios for our pilots where when they get into these conditions in the real world, they know how to react. And it's second nature to them. I wouldn't want to get in the back of an aircraft with a nurse that hadn't done an intubation in 3 years. I would want the same for what's going on in the front of the aircraft. So the picture to the right is a level 7 FTD. It's a flight training device, and it's here in Shreveport. We took delivery of it a few months ago, and we're actually training our pilots in it now. The video to the left is a full motion level D flight simulator. We partnered with Flight Safety International, and flight safety, by the way, is the gold standard for simulators. American, Delta, United, Boeing, they all send their guys to flight safety to do simulator training. They're based in Dallas. That's where this simulator is right now, but we partnered with them to build this simulator. We dedicated the aircraft and the flight time. It takes a lot of time to gather all the data that you have to run through the computers to make these simulators work. And that's the simulator. And when they say full motion, the level D status means that any one of you could come down to Metro, log about 60 hours in this simulator, and you'll walk away with an FAA certified rotor wing license and you never left the ground. That's how real these simulators are. Now, I don't know if I'd want to fly with you, but you can do it. And we could create scenarios in these flight simulators that you just can't do in the real world in a safe way. We can subject them to extremely bad weather. We can have engine failure. We can do an auto rotation. Any number of things to simulate these scenarios that they may or may not find themselves in the real world. So I just wanted to share that piece with you. The training extends to our mechanics as well. We have contracts with all the major engine manufacturers. Those guys are people like Turbomeca, Pratt & Whitney, Rolls-Royce. They actually send their people here to Shreveport, and we conduct aircraft specific. In other words, the engines that they're actually working on, they're sending their people, the guys that made these engines, they're sending them here to Shreveport, and we're sending our mechanics through these courses that they contract with us for. And we're real proud of that. That all takes place in our Helicopter Flight Training Center. Okay, the oversight piece. And I know I'm getting real short on time. I'll try to be quick. North Flight Data Systems is a company we acquired. We have actually acquired the assets of a different company and formed North Flight Data Systems. Y'all all heard of the black box that they look for whenever there's a crash on American or whatever. That's what we created for the helicopter. There hadn't been a lot of focus on that in the industry, and we took the initiative and innovated there. We use it as a training tool. You can actually pull a little SD card out of this box and put it in a computer, and we can see exactly what was going on in the cockpit, because we can train these guys all day long and drill into their heads what we expect from them every day on the job. But when they close the door to the aircraft, we don't know what's going on. This is how we can find that out. And it's not like a Big Brother thing. It's not punitive. It's the way that we can keep tabs and know, is everything going the way it should go in the aircraft. We can sit down with them and say, hey, you took this approach too steep. Why? And they can't argue with that, because it's right there. It's what actually happened. And we extend that into our operational control, our FOQA program. This is something that we're very, very passionate about. It melds into the SMS system, which I'm going to tell you about. We have an operational control center. The FAA mandated that we have to have that, but we were doing it actually before that. And these guys, you can see it in the video with the consoles, they're watching the aircraft the same way air traffic control does. They create a bubble around them. They're watching weather that develops around them. They can call a pilot and tell them, hey, your medical's coming due. You're going to expire in another 2 hours. Did you know that? All of these things are happening, and it's all in the name of safety. And Metro's commitment to that. So the safety management system, this is kind of the system, this is the fourth area of focus. This is what ties it all together. This is what makes sure that it's a cohesive unit, that it's working efficiently, that we have checks and balances. It extends to our management, our operations, our maintenance. We have aviation safety reports. Anytime there's a weather turn down or a flight is aborted for any reason, we'll know about it. These reports are generated. This is all part of our safety management system. So this is our headquarters. This is where we are. This is, if any of you know where Farmer's Seafood is on Holland Avenue, we're right next door to it. It's a 160,000 square foot facility. It's actually the old Solo Cup facility. We moved from there in 2007. And it very perfectly suited our needs, and Kitty was instrumental in finding that property and making it work. So our main offices are right there in the front. We have a machine shop with 3 CNC machines, the computer machines that can turn any piece of metal into anything you want it to. That's right there in the machine shop. Our production shop, where we actually fabricate all the interiors and cabinets that go on the back end of the helicopter. Our inventory, which I'll talk about in a minute. Our avionics department, where we fabricate all the wiring harnesses and panels and radios. We have 3 climate-controlled paint booths. And then our installation hangar area where the aircraft actually reside while they're being worked on. Our engine overhaul and repair shop. Helicopter Flight Training Center I told you about, that's 12,000 square feet, and then North Flight is right there on the end. And this is just a listing of the square footage for each of those areas. And I'm going to breeze through this part. These are our completions, just photos of aircraft that we've done over the years. This is the EC-130, it's a light single-engine aircraft. It's the interior that we patented. It's called an STC, the FAA's version of a patent. This is the EC-135. This is the one you'll see the most. It's the most prolific, widely used, twin-engine, turbine-powered aircraft that's used in the EMS industry. We've done over 200 completions on this aircraft. Chances are, if the 135 is in operation in the United States, it came through Metro at some point or another. Just more pictures. The 145, we've done over 70 completions. We're probably the most well-versed in that aircraft as well. Children's hospitals love this aircraft. They transport infants and pediatric patients, and they have a lot of equipment, a lot of heavy equipment. The isolettes that the infants ride in, a lot of times, you can do it in smaller aircraft, but they love the headroom that they have in the 145. You can see there in the cabin. It's just very spacious. It's the Cadillac of EMS helicopters. We got into law enforcement. And I do want to share with y'all real quick, you can see the Texas DPS is top left there, the Virginia State Police. The big picture there is Massachusetts State Police, and we hosted a law enforcement symposium here in Shreveport. We invited all the state troopers and local law enforcement. It was fairly well attended. Had a few congressmen and senators there as well. The Massachusetts State Police, y'all remember the Boston Marathon bombing? You remember when you saw the bad guy in the boat and the infrared image? That was taken from one of these aircraft that we completed for them. So one other thing I want to mention, the completion work that we've done is kind of run the gamut. Air Methods, AMGH, ERA, and PHI are all competitors of ours. But we've done work for every one of them. And my father will tell you, and I agree, that there's no higher compliment than to have your competitors ask you to do their own work. We're very proud of that. Fortune 500, foreign companies and governments, we've sent ships to Korea, Mongolia, Japan. We're on 6 of the 7 continents, and the only reason we're not on 7 is because Milton doesn't want to start an operation in Antarctica. So maybe one day. This is our shop. So you can see we average 30 to 40 completions a year. On any given day, there's going to be 12 to 15 aircraft there on the shop floor, which is typically more than you'll see than any of the original equipment manufacturers, the big dogs, Eurocopter, Sikorsky, Augusta. We've got more aircraft in our shop than they do. And it's just because people rely on us to do quality work. Sorry, y'all, I'm just going to, okay, there's a shot of a couple of the paint booths. And that's an amazing process. I really invite you to come down anytime you'd like. We'd love to give you a tour, and that can really speak a lot better than I can to what we're doing. Our inventory, keep $18 million. It's probably more than that by now, Kenny. Half of it here in Shreveport, and the other half out in our bases of operation where it's needed the most. We like to keep our aircraft in the air. Just some of our industry affiliations. Helicopter Association International, the convention I mentioned that Mike went to where he learned about the correspondent banking, that was at that convention, and we've been every year since. These other ones are things that we're very passionate about. Dad actually chairs the Air Medical Operators Association. It represents about 90 to 95% of all the operators in the country, about 900 aircraft, and he chairs that. And that organization's goal is to be safe. I mean, that's their mantra, is safety. One last thing I want to mention to you is our customer support. So our core values, and I didn't mention that earlier, safety, quality, and customer service, in that order. Safety first, always. But our customer support, we fly all of our customers in every other year. We give them a chance to network with each other, talk about best practices, let them know what's going on at Metro. We always like to keep the curtain pulled back as far as we can. We've always prided ourselves on being transparent, and we give them a chance to kind of have an informal discussion and talk about what's going on in the industry. And we give that to them free of charge, and we do it, like I said, every 2 years. Metro Product Support website, that's a place for our completions customers to log on and see what's the latest manual, what's the latest product updates that we've done. And then the other thing I want to mention to you is our app. And this is one of the ways that we've continued to evolve, is to stay ahead on technology. And there is a video that I wanted to share, but it looks like I'm out of time, Francesca. So I'll let y'all log on to the website and see that. But anyway, that's as much as I could condense. This presentation is normally an hour long, so I appreciate your attention, and for y'all to have us here. We're very appreciative, and thank you very much.